I have to tell you the truth about who I was before I can tell you who I am now, because the woman I was 3 years ago is someone I look back at with a grief so deep it has no clean bottom. I make no excuses for her. I do not ask for your understanding. I only ask that you read this completely, because if one mother reads this and chooses differently than I did, then the shame of telling it is worth every word. I married David 18 months after my divorce from my daughter's father. Layla was 7 years old when David moved into our home. She was bright and funny and stubborn in the best possible way, the kind of child who asked questions that made adults pause and think. Her father and I had separated quietly, and she had adjusted better than I had expected. She was resilient. I told myself that was a sign she would be fine. I used her resilience as permission to move forward with my own happiness. That was my first mistake. David was attentive and warm during our courtship. He was patient with Layla in the early months, or at least he performed patience convincingly enough that I believed it. He brought her small gifts, he sat through her favorite films without complaining, he said the right things at the right times, and I was lonely enough and hopeful enough to accept the performance as the real thing. The shift happened gradually, so gradually that I kept finding explanations for it. He began criticizing Layla in small ways, her table manners, the volume of her voice, the way she interrupted adult conversations. Individually, each complaint seemed reasonable enough that I could nod along without examining it too closely. I told Layla to sit up straighter. I told her to lower her voice. I apologized to David for her behavior as though her natural childhood energy was something I needed to be sorry for. Then the criticism became something harder. He would speak to her in a tone that made the room go cold, a tone designed to reduce. He would ignore her directly when she spoke, not accidentally but deliberately, looking through her like she was not present while responding warmly to everyone else. He told her once, while I sat at the same table, that her opinion on something did not matter because children did not have opinions worth hearing. I said nothing. I told myself he was still adjusting, that blended families took time, that I needed to be patient and the three of us would find our rhythm eventually. I read articles about step-family dynamics and highlighted the sections that supported staying. I built a case for my own inaction using language I had found in books written for a completely different situation. Layla started going quiet. That is the thing I cannot forgive myself for most directly, because I noticed it. I watched my loud, curious, question-asking daughter slowly pull herself inward over the course of 8 months, and I told myself she was just growing up, just becoming more reserved, just going through a phase. She was not going through a phase. She was learning that her presence caused problems. She was a 7-year-old child shrinking herself to survive a home that should have been her safest place in the world. And her mother was watching it happen and choosing the marriage over and over and over again. The moment I finally woke up came on an ordinary Tuesday evening. Layla had spilled a glass of water at the dinner table, an accident, the most normal accident in the world. David's reaction was immediate and disproportionate. His voice, his words, the look on his face. I had seen variations of it before, and each time I had found a way to smooth it over in my mind. But that evening, I looked at Layla's face, not at David, not at the spilled water, at my daughter's face. And what I saw there was not embarrassment or frustration the way a child normally looks after an accident. What I saw was terror, the particular practiced terror of a child who has learned to brace before impact, who has calculated the room and run the numbers and already decided exactly how small to make herself. My 8-year-old daughter was afraid in her own home, and I had let it get there. I left 2 weeks later. I packed while David was at work on a Friday, and I took Layla to my mother's house, and I sat in my mother's kitchen and told her everything I had minimized and explained away for 18 months. My mother listened without interrupting. When she finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, You already know you should have left sooner. I did know. I had always known. Layla is in therapy now. She's making her way back to herself slowly. The questions are returning, the stubbornness, the laughter, but there are still moments when she flinches at a raised voice or goes very still when a room changes energy. Those moments cost me something every single time. I chose a marriage over my daughter's safety. I will spend the rest of my life being the mother who makes sure she never has a single reason to doubt that I have chosen her every day since. It is the least she deserves. It is the very least. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing to this channel. Every subscriber helps me share more meaningful stories like this. Thank you so much for being here.